Okay, welcome to our Borough of Queenscliffe Candidates Forum, the second forum that we're running today, second forum out of 9 forums. It's great to have everyone along. The Borough of Queenscliffe is made up of just about 4,300 voters at the last election and is made up of an area of 10.5 square kilometres. That means that the candidates only need about 720 votes in order to get one of the seats on council. And I'm very pleased to say that here to answer your questions today, we have Isabelle Tolhurst, Michael Grout, Rob Minty, Jackie Pearce, Ross Ebbels, Fleur Hewitt, and Amanda Hoisted. I've received an apology from Zelda Waters today, and Susan Salter said she was going to be here, but doesn't seem to have arrived as yet. But if she does turn up, we will let her have her say as well. So the forum will go like this. We'll have 2-minute opening statements from each candidate, and then we will have questions from the audience. And again, candidate answers will be capped at 2 minutes, and then we'll move to the 2-minute closing statements. The speaking order, as with all of our forums, will be chosen randomly by the computer, and that will appear on screen for those that are watching via the video stream. So without any further ado, let's get into our opening statements from each candidate, and I'll run the shuffle. And listed first is Susan Salter, but she's not here. So we'll go to Amanda Hoisted first of all.
Hi, Mitchell.
Welcome, go ahead.
Good afternoon, I'm Amanda Hoisted. There's an old term in local government, roads, rates and rubbish. This means concentrating on the fundamentals. I have a practical approach to management that focuses on the fundamentals, good governance of the ratepayers' money, maintaining infrastructure and services. Having run my own retail business for the past 10 years, I have weathered the COVID-19 challenges and would work with and listen to local businesses. The council of our borough has been well run over the last 4 years. There have been a few missteps, but on the whole, there's been a steady hand on the tiller. Now we have the chance to build on that base and work with the community. I'm being upfront with voters by releasing a policy a day on my Facebook page, which covers everything from bushfire readiness to the community gardens. I see this as a way to start a discussion, perhaps present ideas that people will get behind and want to support. In a borough like ours, there's a wealth of talent and a community that's committed to maintaining our special, independent and beautiful 10.5 square kilometres. There are people with expertise in coastal environment and wildlife in our borough. No one knows this area like they do, and they should be listened to. I'm worried about the impact of global warming and look for practical ways that we can act local. I'd like to see our hard waste and e-waste services expanded to incorporate the Detox Your Home mobile service for paint and chemical collection, and for all of this to be part of a waste and recycle fortnight. I'm interested in the quality of our water runoff and what impact the runoff from the Point development is having on Swan Bay. The Point is not in the borough, but the runoff will be a problem for our wetlands. Thank you for the opportunity to tell you something about me.
Thank you very much. Up next is Michael Grout.
Yeah, and hello, Mitchell. Hello, all the other candidates here, and hello, everyone. Yes, I'm Michael Grout. I've lived in Queenscliffe with my gorgeous wife, Janine, for 30 years. We've raised 4 sons here. They went to the kinder, they went to the primary school, they've played sport with the Cooters, and they've worked here. Well, I'm actually a qualified engineer and I'm a trainer, and I've worked in the building industry, in education and the chemical industries. I've developed a good understanding of what people in Queenscliffe and Point Lonsdale want, so I'm standing as an independent candidate for our community and the environment. I believe we can be smarter financially by better planning with our community before we start projects, and so reduce what we spend on consultants while still keeping rate increases within the cap. Community engagement is going to help us act on climate change as we switch to cleaner energy, increase our energy efficiencies, and reduce the risks of erosion, storm and fire. This is about boosting our local economy. It's about local jobs. It's about employment for tradies, work for tradies and suppliers. Regional promotion and local shopping benefits our businesses. And it's really important in this COVID time. Something else that's going to benefit business is keeping our beaches clean and accessible. By looking after our coast and our wonderful buildings, as well as our Aboriginal, artistic and sporting heritage and cultures, we create an environment that residents and visitors enjoy, just as we must also continue to care for locals who most need it. So I'm skilled in community consultation and facilitation. It's been my work, and I'll bring these relevant skills and experience to the council. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that, Michael. Up next, Isabelle Tolhurst.
Thank you, Mitchell. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land, the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and pay respect to elders past, present and emerging. I'm running as an independent candidate for the borough because I'm committed to this community and to delivering outcomes. Like most residents, I live here because I love this place, and my history to the borough runs deep. My great-grandparents, the Dodds, made significant contributions to early Queenscliffe. I went to kindergarten in Queenscliffe, and I've remained a community member for over 30 years. I now live in Point Lonsdale and I want to start a family here. I believe in representative local government and think good governance is essential to getting us through COVID. If elected, I will bring a fresh perspective and new thinking to council. I'm committed to improving transparency and community consultation, and this means bringing the community along from inception. The council, I think if they can achieve this, will become a true collaborator and ally of the community. And in the extensive canvassing I've done so far, I know this is of critical importance to the community as well. I will work to develop a cohesive arts, retail and tourism sector that supports our economy year round and provides cultural sustenance for our community. I will support community-led action on climate change and environmental management, and I'm excited about the strides I've seen taken in this space already. I will also celebrate and promote our cultural heritage. Our town, the borough, has a really unique historical, social, maritime and military history, and that should be protected so that future generations can enjoy it. But cultural heritage to me is also about recognising and collaborating with our traditional owner group. I'm committed to community, I'm committed to action, and I'm committed to delivering outcomes for our amazing borough. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Up next, we have Ross Ebbels.
Thank you, Mitchell, and good afternoon to everyone, including my fellow candidates. I think everyone, we're probably sitting here on Wadawurrung country, so I also would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and pass on my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. I moved here nearly 40 years ago, which is a little bit scary at times, and actually started my hospitality career here in the borough of Queenscliffe. And like most people in hospitality, I moved around a little bit, both within Australia and overseas, in doing my hotel school in Switzerland and then working in the United States. But I always seem to keep coming back to Queenscliffe, and I grew up in Geelong and spent my summer holidays camping in Golightly Park. So there was something about Queenscliffe which just kept bringing me back here, and eventually we we moved, and I started an apprenticeship at the Mietta's Queenscliffe Hotel and started my career here, which is fabulous. We really haven't looked back since then. Our two daughters, both grew up, went to the kindergarten here, the primary school here. Heavily involved in tourism and the community since I moved here, and I've found that even when I had my own businesses, it was really important to be part of that community, and even, you know, it just shows that community and business needs to work together, which I think is fabulous. First term council, as people know, it's a pretty daunting task, and it certainly took a couple of years to find my feet. And I recently, one of the members of one of our community associations sent a letter to me saying it was nice to see that my training wheels were off. So I took that as a compliment, and so we're certainly looking forward to continuing what we've started in the last 12 months. I really think, you know, with the new CEO and, you know, with a new attitude of council also in the last 18 months, we've really sort of started to turn around the attitude towards our community and a lot more open and transparency. So I wish to continue to provide real stability at the moment and leadership during, obviously.
Russ, thank you very much. That's your 2 minutes, but feel free to come in further questions in the closing statements if you have more to say. Next up is Fleur Hewitt.
Good afternoon. I would also like to first acknowledge the Wadawurrung people, the traditional owners of our land in the Borough of Queenscliffe, and pay my respects to any Aboriginal people who are listening today and to their elders, past, present and future. I live in Queenscliffe with my husband and 2 young daughters. I grew up on a farm in the Wimmera before our family moved to the Bellarine. I loved coming to the Borough during school and university to see friends, run the Richter River and waitress at the old Royal Hotel and the Queenscliffe Music Festival. My husband and I moved to Queenscliffe because we wanted to raise our children in this great community. I'm running in this election because I'm invested in the future of the borough. I would like to see more female and younger representatives in council, and because I can bring some valuable skills and experiences to the role. I believe the future of the borough is currently threatened, particularly by climate change and COVID-19. I commit to building on the great work that council's already undertaken to declare a climate emergency and prepare a climate emergency response plan. I will also work to identify and create viable strategies to address the critical needs of our community following COVID-19, including business recovery and improvements to our public infrastructure, which are community-led. I have many ideas for our borough, but above all, I'm committed to listening to the community about what they really want. I don't have any political affiliations or commercial interests in the borough. My only interest is to secure a sustainable and positive future for everyone. Thank you, Mitchell.
Thank you. Up next, Rob Minty.
Thank you, Mitchell, and good afternoon to you and your listeners and my fellow candidates. I'm Rob Minty. I'm a borough resident, have been for many, many years, and owned a property here for over 30 years. My son and daughter went to the local surf lifesaving club, Bee Nippers. My son was the junior captain, joint junior captain of the club for many years. We have fairly deep roots into the community here. I am a councillor here, and I have been for about 10 months. I won the seat on account back after the resignation of Tony Francis. I support an open, accountable and consultative council. I moved to zero emissions and commitment to tackle the impact of climate change. I support an independent borough, working for the benefit of residents and businesses. A financially strong council that maintains its assets in good order, a vibrant community based around strong arts, cultural programs, alongside sporting clubs, volunteer groups, and a very active community groups. The appointment of the CEO, as Ross said, has been pretty much a game changer here. I actively support his Get It Done energy and agenda of 2020 and beyond. The hub, a substantial project, is happening now, and it will improve the residents and visitor experience in Hesse Street. And a much lighter touch will occur in Shortlands bus redevelopment. We've supported the Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve redevelopment, which had stalled for many years, and along with a number of other things here, including the clean up of the Ocean Road area and reduction in the fire fuel along the dunes in both Point Lonsdale and in Queenscliffe.
Rob, thank you. That's your 2 minutes expired. But again,
Thanks,
feel free
Richard.
to come in during the questions and closing statements. Up next, we have Jackie Pearce.
Thanks, Mitchell, and thank you very much to yourself and Pulse FM for arranging this opportunity for us to speak with our residents and voters. I too would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are gathering today, the Wadawurrung people, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. And I would like to thank them for the amazing care they've taken of the beautiful land and seas that we enjoy now, and they've done that for tens of thousands of years. I also pay my respects to any Aboriginal people who are joining us today. I think we must do more as a local community to work with our traditional owners and also towards reconciliation in a really respectful way, but also an action-oriented way. I think there's been lots of language around reconciliation for a very long time, but I'm not sure that we're actually taking the steps that we need to take to make that a reality. My passion for the Borough of Queenscliffe began in the summer of 68 and 69 when, as a 2-year-old, I came and holidayed at Royal Park. And so you can do the math from there and work out how old I am. And that summer became an annual holiday tradition with my family, and that was sealed as a permanent thing in 1982 when my family bought a holiday house here in Point Lonsdale, and I became a permanent resident in 1998. Both my children have been raised here and have gone through local kinder, primary and secondary schools in the Bellarine area. Proudly standing as an independent candidate who is committed to the integrity, inclusion and innovation in our council and our community. If elected, I promise to work collaboratively with our community to achieve goals that we can all share, and I think we will have a much better outcome around state and federal funding for resourcing projects when we share the priorities. Since moving to the Borough, I've worked on lots of local committees, including the Point Lonsdale Civic Association. I do understand that core business is around roads, rubbish and rates, and in fact public toilets is hot on the topic, and we must work with these, but also local action on global issues, including climate change. Thanks, Mitchell.
Thanks, Jackie. I think we've now got Susan Salter with us. Susan, if you can hear this, we'd love to have your opening statement if you can. And you'll have to unmute yourself if you are with us. No, I don't think Susan is with us, unfortunately.
Yes, I am.
Oh, you
yes,
are.
I am.
Hello.
Just, I'm struggling with my laptop at the moment.
Don't worry, this is new for all of us. It's a bit of a learning curve doing these on Zoom, so you're not alone. Welcome. Would you like to give your 2-minute opening statement?
Yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon to my fellow residents and to my fellow candidates. I too would like to acknowledge the Wadawurrung, the owners of this land, past, present and emerging leaders. I grew up in Dimbulla in the Wimmera. I live in Charles Dodd's house. My house is 130 years old, so I have a deep commitment to the heritage of the Borough of Queenscliffe. I came to live here in 1984. I have fought in the original Save the Borough Committee, which was very successful. I'm a past president for 10 years of the Queenscliffe Neighbourhood House. I have a deep abiding passion for community engagement, and the new Local Government Act, in fact, will insist that we all have to do massive amounts of community engagement before we in fact do our council plan. I'm very excited about that. I too support our arts community because, of course, I've been a volunteer on the music festival and various literary festival around the community. Of course, I support the young people of the town because I've taught many of them and indeed many of their parents. I am very pleased with the progress we've made down in the sports groups. I'm look forward to reactivating the business community because COVID has been just dreadful for them. I think that's going to be a priority. And I also think priority is going to be looking after our aged community coming out of COVID.
I wrote the climate change motion that was adopted in December and moved it, and I'm very glad to see that you all support it. I'm very excited about where we're going to go with the hub. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll move now to our first question, which comes from Sue in Queenscliffe, hopefully a different Sue. And they say, I would like to know what experience the non-councillor candidates bring to the table. Have they been involved in or engaged with local government, strategic planning and execution, community consultation or development? What experience do they have in working with a community with diverse and often divergent needs? So it's specifically to the non-councillor candidates, but we'll open it up to everyone to come in with their experience. And listed first now is Fleur Hewitt.
Thank you very much for the question. My background is as a lawyer. I was admitted in 2009 after being a pro bono paralegal for a law firm in Melbourne. I've worked at 2 law firms in Melbourne, and I'm currently working for an international healthcare provider. I work part-time. My legal experience is predominantly in property with expertise in all areas of real estate, including development, construction, planning and environment. I haven't worked closely with community in the professional capabilities, but I have worked predominantly for some government agencies while I was working at a law firm, which were responsible for the revitalisation of the Docklands area. So as part of that, there was a lot of community feedback that was having to be considered and worked through and addressed as part of the rollout of the new infrastructure that was provided to the area. I have an experience in planning law, so I understand planning schemes and planning considerations. And I have also volunteered in a couple of legal clinics, including the Senior Rights Legal Clinic in Melbourne, so have had first-hand experience representing a wide range of clients, including seniors in particular.
Thank you very much. Next up, Amanda Hoisted.
Unmute myself.
Go ahead.
I have lived in the borough now permanently for 11 years, but was living in Melbourne prior to that. And when in Melbourne, I was involved in a number of committees and organisations and community groups. On moving down to Point Lonsdale, I concentrated on the basing my new business at that stage, which has now been open for 10 years and has been going very successfully, which is why I feel I now have the work-life balance to move into giving back to the community through the council. I'm not a member of any of the community associations, and I actually see that as a slight advantage, which is a strange thing to say, but it means that I am completely independent. I believe in communication with all the stakeholders in the community and believe that through that I will be a good councillor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Susan Salter.
So I'm currently a councillor, and I have been previously a mayor. So I have been a teacher for more than 30 years in this area, so I know a huge number of people. I've been president of the neighbourhood house. I've volunteered for many organisations. I don't belong to any of the community associations, and I don't belong to any political parties, but I know a broad spectrum of the community, and I believe I'm a very approachable person.
Thank you very much. Isabelle Tolhurst.
Yes, I currently work at a not-for-profit supporting the learning outcomes and work opportunities for young people. I single-handedly manage a national program for young Australians across the country. So in that role, I manage both an extensive budget and have to make significant strategic decisions about how that program will go and run on a lean staffing crew. I've worked with all tiers of government in past roles, also contributed to strategic decision-making and managing budgets at those different levels, and fundamentally understand the importance of having good relationships with all tiers of government. I've also worked extensively in the arts and music sector. I'm qualified as a writer and editor and a journalist, so most of my work in that sector was through being a journalist. But I also, again, that's taught me how to manage a variety of different stakeholders. And in all the sectors I've worked in, there's a huge, enormous, range of different people I encounter. So very aware of how to manage expectations. And even in this campaign, I have canvassed extensively and I'm aware of what our community looks like and how essential that communication and consultation really is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Michael Grout.
Yes, so I have to say at the start, I felt this might be a little bit of a Dorothy Dixer for me. If it was, I don't know who Sue is, and I don't know. I don't think that I've prepared for this question, but I'm going to tell you that experience with community groups is something that I've had quite a lot of, and how it's relevant to council would be the following sorts of things. So I have facilitated strategic planning with Bellarine Community Health and with the Borough of Queenscliffe. And with our community groups, I facilitated needs analysis with groups like the Queenscliffe Historical Museum, with our sports clubs, and with one of our civic groups. Thank you.
Thank you. Rob Minty. We just can't hear you, Rob. Go ahead.
Yep, sorry. Thanks, Mitchell. Thank you, Sue, for the question. I have a formal qualification, Masters in Business Administration. I've worked in Australia and internationally. On returning to Australia, I joined local government. I've worked in the business or economic development, as it is in local government, economic development area. After retiring from there, I went to Small Business Mentoring Service, which is a pro bono small business system helping small business throughout Victoria. It's a Victorian government initiative. On retiring fully, I joined the Point Lonsdale Civic Association and was a member for many years, ultimately became the president before standing in the 2016 council elections and finally became a councillor in 2019. I think it's been the last 10 months have been a terrific apprenticeship, and it would allow me for the next 4 years to hit the ground running and really make a contribution to the community. I have a deep understanding through these arrangements with the number of clubs and associations I also belong to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ross Ebbels.
Thank you, Mitchell. And obviously the best way to learn about local government and governance is, I guess, to be a local councillor. And obviously the last 4 years we've spent doing that, particularly in the first couple of years when we're formulating our council plan. And obviously probably the last 6 months with the new Local Government Act coming in, the amount of new policies that council has had to pass through, and also the amount of new policies that are going to come to the new council also. I think there's 60 in total, which need to be done probably in the next year. So that's a really good learning curve. Obviously, my background in tourism and hospitality with doing my schooling overseas set me up to certainly work closely with all different levels of government, particularly in regard to when I was the longest serving chairman of the Geelong Regional Tourism Authority. And also we spent many years locally as the inaugural chairman of the Queenscliffe Music Festival when after year one the Borough of Queenscliffe, which was a great thing to do, put in a board of management there to try and turn the ship a little bit for the Queenscliffe Music Festival, and how great it is that some 20 years later the success and the stability of the Queenscliffe Music Festival is here for all of us to see. Also, just in levels of government, obviously one of my jobs, we did work closely with A Day in the Green in regard to major events, and that obviously we had a lot of different uses in regard to fire, ambulance, etc., and all the different levels of emergency providers that need to do that. But yeah, certainly, yeah, experience is the key to that.
Thank you, Ross. And Jackie Pearce.
Thanks, Mitch. And thank you, Sue, for the question. I think it's a great question. You need to have a belief that the new people coming to the table have got some of the skills and experience that are required to be effective councillors. So in terms of my background, I have tertiary qualifications in public policy and management, and I've also completed the Australian Institute of Company Directors course, and I think all those things will assist with effective management and governance of our borough. I have spent my professional life for the last 33 years, the last 23 of which have been self-employed, so I think you learn a lot about managing a business and making a business sustainable when you're self-employed, and it all relies on you to make sure that it is both financially sustainable and viable into the future. And my whole professional career has been focused on strategic planning, service reviews, service development, with a whole plethora of people, and predominantly people with a disability, people who are ageing, and their families. So when you talk about bringing diverse interests together, that's my bread and butter. That's what I spend my life doing. I was the Every Australian Counts campaign coordinator, which was the campaign that led the government to introduce the National Disability Insurance Scheme. So I worked on that campaign for 3¼ years, and we had to start that campaign by bringing diverse voices all to the table together and start them singing from one songbook. And until we had that part of it achieved, we couldn't strive for a national disability insurance scheme. I have worked with the borough in the past on things like the Lonsdale Children's Centre, when we were trying to keep that as a community-based childcare centre rather than a privatised childcare centre. And we looked at options for a family and community services centre on the Queenscliffe High School site at the time. So I have worked on various subcommittees of the Borough of Queenscliffe, but never been a councillor yet. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Jackie. Our next question is in relation to tourism, and this person who's chosen through the website to remain anonymous says, what are your plans to boost tourism in the region to stimulate the local economy for businesses while still remaining COVID safe? How are you going to find the balance between the two? And listed first is Fleur Hewitt.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting time as we sort of recover from COVID. We're really lucky here in the borough to have only had one positive case, and I think that was attributed to someone while they were in Melbourne. But we haven't really been immune to the economic impact of COVID. I think it'll be a fine balance. Obviously, at the moment, businesses are hurting quite a lot, and organisations are hurting quite a lot because we haven't had the same tourist numbers. We haven't been able to cater for the same customer numbers or, diners inside. I must commend, the restaurateurs in the borough for their ability to pivot and really expand their takeaway and delivery offerings during this difficult period. But I don't think that anything will really assist until we get more, until restrictions are really eased and we get more people into the borough. In terms of what we can do as a council to assist, I think in terms of the hurting businesses, I think the stimulus and financial packages are great. I think we also need to assist with COVID safe plans and also, allow more increased dining so that the restaurateurs can be at full capacity. I also think that cutting red tape where we can would also be quite beneficial. I think there's things we can do for tourism, and that's continuing to support our really lively markets and festivals and the great retailers we have. And even things that will assist with climate change, like installing electric vehicle charging stations in public spaces, can also aid ecotourism and the like. So I think there's a lot we can do, and I'm sure that the future council will, and I will be committed to focusing on that if I was to be elected. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rob Minty.
Thank you very much indeed for the question. It is going to be a balancing act in terms of boosting numbers of visitations to the borough. Given the COVID situation, we must obviously be guided by the state government on what they allow us to do. The current focus is to optimise the use of accommodation. As soon as Melburnians are allowed to come down here, we will be relying on other, maximising our resources that we have, like caravan parks, Airbnb opportunities, home accommodation, and it is expected that there will be a higher volume of Australians obviously looking for resort holidays or seaside holidays, particularly in areas like the Borough along the Great Ocean Road. So we'll be trying our hardest to find as much accommodation for people as possible and promoting the Borough as a destination for that. In that envelope of ensuring that we follow all the COVID issues, that is cleanliness of our parks and the services that we supply within those, and also ensuring that the opportunities like the outdoor dining initiative by the state government allowing further development of more chairs and tables outside of the businesses so that people can spend more time outside, which is, and obviously it's a safer COVID situation.
Thank you very much. Jackie Pearce.
Thank you for the question. I think it's a really challenging question to actually answer, given that I haven't been a councillor before and given that I definitely haven't been a councillor in a global pandemic. So we do need to take a whole range of local actions to respond to what is an international issue. So I agree with Rob that we need to be guided at all times by the state government directives, and those things are going to be critical into the future. There's no guarantee that we're not going to have further peaks of COVID-19 really until there's a vaccine. I think we can do a whole lot more to promote ourselves to other regional areas. So until Melbourne is opened up and safely opened up and we can welcome our Melbourne friends back, I think that regional Victoria needs to be a target of our campaigning. I think we also need to really look at, and I really like the initiative council's taken, current council's taken around the Love 3225. I think we can really try and promote that a whole lot more so that we've got people buying local and accessing our local businesses. In addition to that, I think we need to continue to look at what levers council itself has. So what fees do we normally charge businesses? And I know council's done this already, but we need to look into the future with that as well. What can we either reduce or waive in terms of fees that are normally charged to businesses into the future? I think we need to go a lot further with the outdoor dining, as Rob was saying. I think there's real opportunity, particularly with spring and summer weather, to look at how we can do the outdoor better, and probably an increased focus on cleaning of public amenities would be part of what I would like to see happen, so that whatever we're doing is as COVID safe as possible. Thanks, Mitch.
Thank you very much. Isabelle Tolhurst.
Thank you, Mitch. I think there's a huge amount we can do to get our tourism sector back on its feet. Of course, as all the other candidates have mentioned, it's critical. This is in line with state and federal government directives around what is COVID safe, and the well-being of our community is an absolute priority above all else. But I think this is a great opportunity to test and experiment some stuff. So I would love to initially see the community grant scheme reinstated. This can support local community organisations and arts projects. Arts are part of what we can offer out to the world. So that was taken off the cards this year due to COVID, but I think it's a real symbol of how council can support the community. So a first and really immediate step that I think could aid that would be to re-implement those grants. Encouraging, as several other candidates have said, to shop local is a great suggestion. Collaborating with organisations that aid our tourism work, like the G21 Alliance and the Tourism Greater Geelong and the Bellarine. Trying to access state and federal funding and making sure those, where money is available, it's communicated clearly to our tourism, retail and arts providers. And I think also looking at what other councils have done. The City of Greater Geelong, I think, as Jackie alluded to, has provided some great discounts for retailers and business operators to, you know, get their dining arrangement out onto the street, or cut the cost of having A-frames. So ensuring that the costs and ways of applying with the bylaws are really clear for the Borough of Queenscliffe and all our business providers would be excellent. But I think let's use this opportunity to test some new thinking, test some new ideas, and make sure that we come out of COVID thriving.
Thank you very much. Amanda Hoysted.
In fact, a lot of the things that I was going to say have already been said, because we are a very sensible group of people. Some of the things that Jackie said about promoting ourselves to regional tourism, I think would be a very good way to open up the borough without being too exposed to what potentially is a problem from Melbourne, although they are getting it under control. And we have plenty of people who have holiday houses in the borough who always tell us how wonderful we are. The outdoor dining is a very good idea, and being guided by the state government as to social distancing. What about the idea of possibly blocking off Hesse Street over the weekend period or something like that, that would turn the whole of Hesse Street into outdoor dining over summer? You know, this is what I'm about. I'm about floating ideas and seeing what's possible, what has backing, what fits in with guidelines, and thinking a bit outside the square. So I know how wonderful the borough is. I know everybody's going to come back to see us. Let's just make it safe for everyone.
Thank you very much. Ross Ebbels.
Thanks, Mitchell. And I think everyone's sort of saying a lot of the same things, which is great. And I think one of the major things is that balance between safety and actually bringing more people into the area. Obviously, in regard to, a few people mentioned about the fees that council pays. So the current council have waived all those fees until March next year, or something which council discussed. Originally, the officers were looking at 6 months. Council said, no, we need to look beyond 6 months. We need to know that our businesses have confidence that when they do reopen, they're not going to have the A-frame fees. They're not going to have food registration fees, and also the outdoor dining. We're certainly working closely at the moment with some of our operators in town about moving so they can go onto the footpath further. That obviously needs to be in cooperation with their neighbours, but also with Vic Roads as well, and still have to make sure that the footpaths are safe, of course. They're also just released this week, and I did send it out to a lot of our operators. There's now $5,000 grants for those operators who do expand to actually go out and buy some additional furniture as well, which has been great. The state government has been very generous and provided council also with $250,000 to how it can look about how it can improve outdoor dining and facilities within the borough. So certainly the borough is looking at, similar to in James Street in Geelong and other regional places, they have what they call skiplets, which is basically almost a little bit of an outdoor dining area. So little things like that will also it'll break up the towns as well, and also add a little bit of colour and vegetation as well. Melbourne is still 80% of our market is still Melbourne, so it is crucial that we do get Melbourne open. We do have part of Tourism Greater Geelong Ballerine. There is a $500,000 campaign ready to roll when Melbourne comes out of lockdown. They will start in region, but there will be a lot of money to be spent promoting the Borough of Queenscliffe.
Thank you, Ross. Susan Salter.
Hi, thank you, Mitch, and thank you for the question. And I just wish to elaborate a little bit on what everyone else is saying. Managing COVID and keeping everyone safe has to be a priority, but getting everyone back and involved is high priority. So I don't really want to go over the other things that people have talked about, but some extra ideas that we need to throw into the mix here are out at Point Lonsdale on the deck. I don't know that people realise we actually put in power there. So I actually think we need to be talking to the music festival and other musical groups around town. So we put some music out on the deck that will encourage people to be in Point Lonsdale, because of course all the eating facilities will be having tables and chairs out on their decks. So we want things that encourage people to come there. So music would just be fantastic. I'm also suggesting, on top of all the things that Ross has detailed, that we should be looking at closing either the part of Stoke Street between Gellibrand Street and Hesse Street, so we can overflow all the businesses into there, or parts of Hobson Street so we can overflow into there, or we encourage people to park in those places and we narrow down Hesse Street. So we take the parking of Hesse Street and we move all the tables out into the parking. But I agree with what everyone else is saying, which is we have to be much more lateral thinking in ways we encourage people to gravitate into the town. But I also want to encourage the music festival to bring some of their acts and some of their facility and life back into our streets, to encourage people to sit in the streets and enjoy a glass of water. It'd be fantastic.
Thank you very much. And Michael Grout.
Yeah, and I thank you for the question. I think it's a good question. Tourism in COVID times. Hey, everybody. People mainly come here for our beaches, our ice cream and our fish and chips. And COVID risk is reduced. Social distancing is easier outside and at the beach. So let's keep our parks and our beaches nice and clean. So they're a great place to go to. Look, providing really good accommodation, providing choice of food and drink, these are the sorts of things that people need as well. But these are very much up to the business operators to provide. Where council can help is, as the existing councillors have said, we can do something about the seating arrangements. The other things that I think are important are going forward, the things that Fleur mentioned, the festivals, having arrangements throughout the year to encourage people to come here, and also we can join with local regional organisations in promoting tourism, especially ecotourism. Look, a really important thing that hasn't been mentioned yet is, I think, if all locals were very welcoming, we would find more people like to come here and stay here.
Thank you very much for that, Michael. Unfortunately, we've run out of time for any more questions because I would like to give each candidate their full 2 minutes for the final closing statements. This is the candidate's opportunity to sort of reiterate why people should vote for them, but to perhaps also touch on any areas that we haven't been able to cover through questions so far. So first up for the closing statements is Amanda Hoisted.
Thank you for this time, Mitchell. I'm asking for your vote in the Borough of Queenscliffe elections because I believe I'm the sort of practical person who's needed in local government. Now, if you look at the candidates that we've had today, they're all fabulous people and we're really well represented in the borough by people who are wanting to be involved. I believe that I have a position within that mix and that I have the work-life balance that would allow me to commit to council. My son finishes year 12 this year and my business is in a solid base. I have a lifelong connection to the borough and would be proud to serve my community. And our son plays in the back line of the under-19 Queenscliffe Cooters team, who would have been the dream team this year. So anyway, I believe that I would have a place on the council. I believe it needs to be a mix of people with all different talents. And as you can see, there's a range of talents here to choose from. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Susan Salter.
Thank you for the question. I started off council being one of the youngest councillors and now potentially I'm one of the oldest. I would look forward to mentoring some of the younger women. I'm so delighted to see so many women have stood this time round. It's just fantastic. I look forward to progressing my work on climate change. There is so much to still do about preserving the heritage of the town. This has been my place of choice to live for most of my adult life, and I continue to want to preserve it, protect it, and encourage the rest of the world to come and enjoy it.
Thank you very much. And Michael Grout.
Yeah, thanks, Mitchell, and thanks for providing this forum. Each of us to explain what we offer. Look, why vote for me? I'm open and I'm honest. I'm balanced and I'm sensible. I'm standing for our community and environment, and I'm going to focus on maintaining an independent borough with low rate increases, acting on climate change with our community, supporting local businesses, looking after our environment, caring for our community well-being, and protecting our unique cultural and built heritage. And I'm going to help build trust between our community and council. I've got skills in facilitation and negotiation through my work, and I've got experience, as I've mentioned before, with several of our local organisations in facilitating their needs analysis and their planning. For me, it would be a privilege to represent people of Point Lonsdale and Queenscliffe and our environment on council. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Michael. Fleur Hewitt.
Thanks, Mitchell and the polls for hosting, and thanks everyone for listening. I'd like to wish all the candidates the very best for the upcoming election. I'd ask that the listeners vote for me in this election. I will bring a much needed new energy and dedication to the role, together with my legal experience in areas which are core to council's functioning, such as property, construction, planning and environment. By appointing me on council, you'll ensure that a broader cross-section of our community is represented, which I believe is the only way to guarantee that the needs of all demographics are properly met. I have represented the full range of clients, from government agencies and international companies to seniors through volunteer work at the Senior Rights Legal Clinic. I have a proven track record in effective communication, negotiation and advocacy, and a real passion in representing others. I believe in the borough's future as a sustainable, vibrant and innovative community which advances the wellbeing and happiness of all ages through good environmental practices, widespread support initiatives and community-directed infrastructure projects. And I will work to deliver on this vision. I will be accessible, honest and effective. I would love to chat. Please contact me at fleurhewitt4boq@gmail.com if you would like to touch base. I believe that a vote for me is a vote for a sustainable and bright future. I ask that you vote one, Fleur Hewitt. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Jackie Pearce.
Thanks, Mitch, and thank you to the Pulse again and to all the listeners that have been with us today. If elected, I promise to work in an open, transparent and collaborative way with our community and your council. I will work diligently and hard to be a highly effective councillor. I will focus my attention and resources towards the myriad of unfinished projects that have been in the pipeline for a very long time before we commence a whole range of new projects. I know that's been a real thorn in the community side to have so many projects in the pipeline for many, many years unresolved. So they include the Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve, the significant tree register, and I could go on, but I won't. There's also some key local issues that are starting to bubble that require our attention. The 24-hour accessible public toilets in locations that actually work for people, vegetation management from both an aesthetic and safety perspective, coastal inundation and erosion, and I know that's a controversial one, particularly when people have properties that might be individually impacted on by coastal inundation, but we can't put our heads in the sand. It's not going to go away, and coastal inundation is a critical part of the climate emergency. We need to work really hard with City of Greater Geelong and the state government on the Bellarine Peninsula distinct areas and landscape planning policy that's being worked up at the moment. The work at Lawrence Road, Point Lonsdale Road intersection that's been done so far is fantastic in terms of separating some vehicle and pedestrian traffic, but I think more work needs to be done to make that intersection safe, particularly in peak times. If elected, it will be my privilege to serve you, my community, on your council. I hope I have your support, and I hope that you think that my qualifications and experience and my willingness to work collaboratively with the community will secure your vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Isabelle Tolhurst.
Thank you, Mitchell, today, and to all the volunteers at the Pulse who work behind the scenes. This is precisely what local government and local democracy is about. It's about participating and having your leaders available to you. And I remain available to the community and committed to listening and acting if elected. A vote for me, Isabelle Tolhurst, is one for fresh thinking and new ideas on council. A vote for me is one for community consultation, for delivering outcomes, and for independent thinking on council. A vote for me is one for a more representative government, especially as it relates to our current gender imbalance. There is only one female councillor, yet we comprise 60% of the borough's community. A vote for me is one for supporting the survival and vibrancy of our arts, tourism and retail sectors well beyond COVID. Something I didn't mention on this point before in the question that pertained to tourism was, connecting our towns, making sure it's not a Queenscliffe specific tourism focus, that both our towns benefit from what tourism can yield to our council. And also remaining that the infrastructure that supports tourism, like the bank, remains open. I know the temporary closure of the Bendigo Bank was a concern to many residents, so it's something I've made my concern also known about and will follow up if elected for sure. A vote for me is also one for the protection of our cultural heritage and the celebration of our cultural heritage, and for community-led action on climate change and environmental management. We must protect what makes our town brilliant. If elected, I will collaborate with the other 4 councillors to deliver the best outcomes for this community. I will listen and I will act. So when you receive your ballot pack this week or early next, I ask that you vote 1 for Isabelle Tolhurst. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ross Ebbels.
Thank you very much, Mitch. And might I say that I think the Borough of Queenscliffe is pretty fortunate to have such great candidates. I think everyone here today, whoever the 5 are that are elected, I think will really work well together and make the borough the envy of other municipalities as it is at the moment. And also, yeah, it's great to see. I think there's a 6 out of 11 candidates are female, which is great. And from someone who lives in a house full of females, I think it's a great thing and something we should be proud of. So hopefully we can get some more females elected as well. As I said earlier, the last 12 months, 18 months, I think council has changed the direction, and obviously the community satisfaction surveys for 2020 highlighted that the overall council direction moved from index score of 45 up to 63 points, and that's well above the state average and well above similar rural councils within the state of Victoria. But what that says is we're heading in the right direction, but there's a lot more work to be done. And I think with the other candidates here, we can continue on that good work, and we can make sure that we do what we do best, and that's look after our community. If re-elected, I will remember, and I've certainly found that recently being as mayor, sometimes it's the small things which matter most to our community. It's keeping things clean. It's the paths. I think Jackie mentioned about, the parks, just making sure they're clean and presentable. And that's what other people want when they come to visit. They want what we already have. And sometimes we take that for granted. Certainly I'll continue to be visible. Early in my mayorship, I spent a lot of time with the CEO, having our meetings on the street. Continue to listen, available, give back to our community, and I'll continue to work hard for our community. And also we want to make sure we keep the Borough of Queenscliffe independent and financially viable. We have 0 debt, which is amazing compared to a lot of other councils within the state of Victoria. So Mitchell, thank you very much for your time, and good luck to all the other candidates.
Thanks, Ross. And Rob Minty, last but not least.
Thanks, Mitchell. I'd like to agree with many of the sentiments that Ross expressed regarding the candidature and the representation going forward. I think the residents would be well served. He also stole my statement regarding the annual satisfaction report that occurred, it's a 12-month report, except in the area of planning, and that's something that council is currently working on to address, and that's to improve the heritage and planning process within council. I think the balance of the energy levels and higher and the work on major projects has increased in the last 12 months. I have run ads in both of our major newspapers so that I can be contacted and that I am contactable, and have been on many occasions by residents and businesses alike, so that their issues can be uploaded into council, because COVID has created difficulties for our residents in that area. I understand how local government operates, and I'm effective in getting things happening. It is important to maintain the momentum, I believe, with the core of existing councillors, but I do believe we can help new councillors and in their support to grow them into the role and make them more effective. It is quite a steep learning curve. I'm not being patronising with that, but it is a steep learning curve because we're all very keen to make things happen as quickly as we possibly can. I would like to thank you, Mitchell, and your station, your listeners, and I respectfully ask in the voting that you vote 1 Rob Minty. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rob, and thank you to all the candidates today. We really appreciate your involvement in our forum. Susan Salter, Isabelle Tolhurst, Michael Grout, Rob Minty, Jackie Pearce, Ross Ebbels, Fleur Hewitt, and Amanda Hoisted. I'd also like to thank the staff and volunteers of this station. I get to be sort of the moderator, and you see a lot of me, but there's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes from both our staff and our wonderful volunteers. So I'd like to thank them for their help in putting the forums on. That's it for our digital democracy for today, but tomorrow's forums are the Golden Plains Shire from midday, and then from 1:30 Winchelsea. day. So for now, we'll return you to our COVID music programming. Thank you all once again.
Thank you, Mitch.
Thanks, Mitch.
Thanks, Mitch.
Thank you. See you.
Thanks, Mitch. Thanks, everyone.
See you all later.
See ya.
Bye.
See you on the street.
Yeah, see everybody.
Thanks, everyone.